Hello everybody. My name is Dr. Goren. I'm coming from Tel-Aviv University, and I want to talk about curiosity, which I think doesn't need an introduction here and why it is important. I want to tell a little bit about my work about curiosity and how I'm trying to bring it into the classroom and promote it in the classroom. So first, a personal story. Why I was interested in curiosity. I saw my firstborn standing up for the first time, and it's a very exciting moment. It's very cool. And then I asked why. Why did she stood up? She got everything she needs. She gets food. She gets love. She doesn't need to stand up at all. And then I realized maybe she found out something new. Up until now, she saw the world of feet, and suddenly she stood up and discovered a whole new world of knees. They bend. It's a totally new thing, and she's so happy. And she was very excited about standing up, and she started to also to walk. And then I realized maybe this is something very important about curiosity. You try something new, you learn something new, and you get some reward from it. You're so happy that you learned something that you're going to try to learn more. And this is what I call the curiosity loop. So, okay, lovely. There's a lot of animations in this slide, which I'm going to obviously skip. So I'll start with the definition. I'm a scientist, so I need to define things. So I define curiosity as the intrinsic drive to learn as much as possible and the behavior that accompanies. So it's intrinsic drive. It comes from within. You can't have a curiosity pill, but you can encourage and suppress it. It's the drive to learn as much as possible. So for a curious person, for each answer, there's another question. And also you need to behave in order to learn. You can't just say, I'm curious and do nothing. So according to my definition, you're curious, so thank you much for coming. So once you have a definition, a verbal definition, you can start building models. So you can have a model of something that learns. You have a lot of mathematical models of that. And then something about the drive. We have also mathematical models of that. And then you just link them, where you give a reward for every time you learn something new, and then this drives behavior. And once you have a model, you can turn it into math, and there's actually a mathematical definition of how much you learn, a mathematical definition of reward, and then you can have a mathematical definition. And then once you have math, you have the code, and once you have the code, you have one of those. So this is a robot. If you know it, it's a Lego Mindstorm. You should definitely buy it if you have kids. And it has an arm and a camera that moves and a brain. The brain doesn't come with the kit, but I had it in the lab. And this robot, I just told it, learn as much as you can by yourself. I didn't tell it what to learn, just learn everything you can. And it started learning new things. One of the interesting things it learned is that it actually learned to recognize itself. So if you give it a picture of its hand, it will say, this is 1 and this is 0. It recognized its own hand. And I must emphasize, I didn't tell it what to learn. It actually emerged just from the learning as much as possible. But then something even more astounding happened. It was also curious, so it behaved. So it's actually started to look at its own hand, which is a developmental stage in children. So this robot actually started to behave like babies. So this curious robot can learn about itself. And then I wanted to see whether curiosity can actually help us in the things that a lot of people talked about here, personalization and tutoring. So this curiosity, in this setup, we had a robot playing with a child. And the robot asked the child some questions, and the point here was to assess the child's, here it was reading knowledge, in the least amount of questions. So you want to add the most information in the least amount of questions, which is actually another definition of curiosity, to learn as much as possible about the child by asking questions. And using the same math, we actually came to the conclusion that you can actually only in 10 simple questions, you can gain a lot of knowledge about the reading skills of children. So we use this curiosity algorithm here. And then we went a little bit further. Okay, so the curious robot can learn about itself, it can learn about children. What about social behavior? So this robot can make faces, and it was standing in front of a lot of people, and what it wanted to do is to actually engage people, to have people come to it and be engaged with it, and it made faces. So which face actually made people stay more? Let's see if you can guess. The sad face. So the name of the paper is No One Leaves the Sad Dragon Bot. And then, again, it was curious. It wanted to behave. So what did it start doing? It started crying more because it wanted to get more attention. Sounds familiar for everybody? So this robot, again, started to behave like a child. But then we started doing something even more crazy. So when I was in MIT, we did this crazy experiment. We took this robot into preschools. It was a special start preschool, which means half the children were neurotypical and half the children were special needs. And for 2 months, every day the robot was there, and it played with the children and taught them Spanish as a second language. But what was more interesting, we heard a lot about personalization, but what we heard about is personalization of content. You want to show the child what it needs to learn next. Here, it was a personalization of engagement. The robot changed its behavior, its faces, and the motivational strategy it used in order to maximize the engagement of the child. So we actually had an online engagement assessment tool according to the face of the child, and the robot actually changed its behavior in order to make the children more engaged. And as you can see, half the children played with a personalized robot and half the children played with non-personalized. And actually, those children that played with the personalized robot were more engaged after a 2 months period than those who didn't. So we can have personal engagement in the classroom. And what's more, can curious be infectious? So there are a lot of studies about adults that if you are near a curious person, you can become more curious. But what about children? Can 2 children infect one another? So doing experiments with just 2 children is very hard because they don't do anything you wanted them to do. So we just exchanged one child with a robot. And this robot behaved like a curious child. It said, I love to learn new things. This is so cool. And then we assessed the curiosity of the child. And indeed, the children that played with the curious robot actually were more curious afterwards. So this is the way to promote curiosity. So to summarize, we can develop mathematical models of curiosity. Curious robots can learn about themselves and people in the environment just like children, and curiosity is contagious. And what's next? This is Schmuthuber, one of the fathers of artificial curiosity, and he said that curiosity is the basis of many other things like art, humor, play, and science. And so maybe the future is this, that robots will accompany our children and will make them more curious. Or maybe the future is that robots will be curious about robots and we just be left out. So thank you very much. And I want to invite the panelists here. So first let's start with a 1-minute introduction of you and where you're coming from.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Great. Hello everybody. I'm Christine. I'm here from Discovery Education. I think some of you may be familiar with Discovery Channel or Animal Planet or Discovery TV. Well, we're the educational division. We take the best of Discovery programming along with content from other worldwide producers, BBC, Channel 4 Learning, ITN, and we put that video at the heart of a series of educational services that go into schools. Our key markets are in the US and in the UK. And we wrap our video materials with a whole host of multimedia support, interactivities, printables, and we plug all of that content into platforms that allow teachers and students to create quizzes, board builders, to collaborate, and so on. Right now, Discovery is, we're in around 50% of UK schools with our products, and it's pretty similar in the US. Outside of those markets, we work with publishers, ministries of education, and so on, creating bespoke educational solutions. And that's the work that I do. So I will be working with partners to really understand what the educational goals are and to help create a solution that works and has impact in the classroom.
So hi everyone, and I'm Michal Tsur. I'm Kaltura's co-founder and president. And Kaltura is a video technology company. So we work with many types of companies to deliver many types of engaging experiences that leverage video technology. So we work with folks such as media companies and cable operators to deliver next generation cloud TV services. Work with large enterprises to deliver knowledge sharing, collaboration, and training experiences. And then we work with education institutions, mostly to power teaching and learning experiences, but also many other things on campus, things such as campus events and marketing, alumni relations. So video in the end is extremely effective in many of those areas. And recently we launched something we call our video platform as a service that mostly caters to SaaS platforms, and in particular, in areas such as education where video is much more mission critical. So with many EdTech platforms we work, integrators, people who want to actually leverage our services in order to integrate video into existing platforms. So when you think of video in education, think of many of the changes that have happened in the way we learn, things such as distant learning, MOOCs, whether, methods such as flipped classroom, blended learning, all of those involve video technology. And the reason video is effective, it's not only because it's engaging and you're kind of focused on like a smaller area, but it also caters to, social learning in groups. It caters also to the ability to, pop up things within the video while students are focused on it. It can maybe be a supplement or a substitute to bad teaching skills. So it's very effective if delivered correctly and with the right content. And in the case of like Discovery, Discovery would use a platform in order to deliver content, but many times our platform is actually leveraged as a facilitator for content creation. So most of our customers are actually using it in order to create content by faculty and students.
Cool. Hi everyone, my name is Elad. I'm the founder and CEO of LTG Exam. LTG is a company that developed the most effective, most efficient and personalized mobile learning platform to study for standardized tests. And today we operate over 14 apps in the market, supporting 6 standardized exams, the biggest ones in the US. For example, SAT, ACT, GMAT, GRE, MCAT, and the like. A little bit about LTG. On the consumer side, we are servicing the consumers with helping them achieve one of the biggest tasks in their journey to higher education. But we also work on the B2B side with universities to help them find the right students to their degree programs. So today we work with companies like 2U, Hotchalk, Shorelight Education, the Pursuit Review, and the like. And in our network, we have over 25 universities today in the US that we help them to recruit from our community of learners. So LTG today is a company based in Boston and Tel Aviv. We went through multiple rounds of financing, and I'm based in Boston. I'm the founder and CEO, and happy to be here.
Great, thank you. So I have some different platforms here, video and mobile. Can you maybe comment on what's the role of the platform itself on engagement and the effective of learning? Yeah.
So it's a good question. There were some transitions that I've seen in the market, and if in the past people used to study with books, I think we talked about it before, and then e-learning systems came and disrupted the entire book industry almost, and today mobile learning platforms are disrupting e-learning systems, and maybe in the future VR systems, headsets, are going to disrupt mobile. I see that it's a natural transition. It's good that we're delivering content via different mediums, but companies need to know how to deliver the content in the right way that is consumable. It manages the behavior and the expectation of the user and the learner, and that's something that we do today very well on mobile. We have broken the exams into pieces and recreated the entire learning experience for the mobile user. So when we are talking with consumers, what we learn is that we're competing with other mobile apps on their phones. So the experience has to be as good as a Facebook app or Snapchat or Candy Crush or whatever, right? So because at the end of the day, all of us are competing on the same attention of the user, especially on mobile. Right? With e-learning systems, it's a little bit of a different story. You want to sit in front of a computer, you want to sit maybe in a room, and you want to spend the time as it should be, without too many interactions and really kind of focus on your learning. So on mobile, it's a little bit of a different story, and that's mainly our focus in the company.
So I'd say that on our end, in the end, we have hundreds of institutions that use our platform, but in the end, they use it either in order to deliver premium content that a lot has been invested in creating it, but the majority actually use it in order to actually create the content, and in that sense, the learning content is not inherently engaging. What makes it engaging for many of the students is that it's relevant. So, you can have actually very badly produced content that is very relevant for the students, and then they might end up watching it It might be easier for them to watch it if they can watch it on the go, or they can watch it at their convenience. But in the end, the reality is that content is king, and institutions that invest a lot in creating higher production value content in shorter snippets and presenting it in a more engaging manner, and potentially also, quizzing, retaining the attention of the students, that's something that works much better for the students. But, in the end, the biggest change that has made this feasible is that, when you think of it, we can now consume video and create video pretty much from, any time and anywhere. So these devices have changed it, and we all have the means for producing high quality HD video at the tips of our fingers. So that's the biggest change, and that's why video literacy levels have gone up, and many of us can actually create videos and make the content more appealing and engaging with very little training to that effect.
I would agree. It's not just about the video, it's about the tools that surround that video and how that really supports this kind of notion of interactive teaching and learning. So if we're watching a video, for example, how do we enhance that experience? How do we ensure that it's not a passive learning experience, something I think we may pick up on later? So what are the questions that we can ask? What are the, how do we encourage this higher order thinking? Well, all of that is really facilitated by the tools that surround the content, right? And we get that from the platform, we get that from the tools. We're seeing a huge increase with the number of teachers who are really tapping into the apps that are available and that they're sharing. And to your point there about, the transition to mobile, we have this aspiration to support teachers moving away from a lecture approach, standing at the front and talking. Well, how do we really support that? And I think that's where technology is absolutely king. All of the things that we, combined come together to really bring a huge amount of opportunity for change and impact in the classroom.
I want to say just one thing. There is, and that's because of sort of based on our experience with the consumer market in the test prep space. Every kid has a different learning style that he prefers to consume content differently, right? Some folks are really good in textual basis, what your rate is, maybe 10% of that to remember. Some people are just pretty good in learning with videos. Some people just want to have the emotional connection, maybe with a tutor. So we try to support different learning styles. So we have, of course, textual basis content, and we also support video explanations. But the world has many different types of styles of learning, and some folks just learning very well with engaging in a social environment, right? When you interact with friends or discuss content, or maybe sitting just in a classroom. Maybe that's what works for some of the folks. So I believe that all of us are working on trying to support as many styles as possible, and I think that there's no one style takes it all.
I think that's really, really fascinating. You think about the way that we learn, right? Think about the way that we're learning today and maybe compared to what our learning experiences were like when we were at school. We have a wonderful opportunity now, just pulling together, whether it's your audio, your visual, the apps that surround the content, and it makes learning sticky. We're making more connections. We're able to do that now. We need to support teachers with this. It's not just a natural, put the kit into the classroom and hope for the best. I can certainly share some experiences of how that hasn't worked in the UK. But support the teacher in this process. Let's harness the use of technology, harness the way that we have all this new capability and content to really support students in the thinking and the learning process, to keep that learning sort of sticky and keep it locked in.
I agree. We talked about, in the previous lecture, about all these soft skills beyond knowledge, beyond just the pure general knowledge. How can these platforms support this development of soft skills within the classroom?
It's interesting. And one thing that comes to mind to me immediately is also, things such as digital literacy and video literacy. And I can say that, in a survey that we put out to more than 1,200 schools, it's apparent that even the professors, administrators are, clearly admit that students' digital literacy and video literacy skills are much better than theirs. And in that sense, it could be that also technology is a way to engage with the students in a better way. So, not only present them with content, but present them with assignments to create content. And I'd say, obviously when you mean soft skills, you refer to many other skills, not only those, but I think those are apparent ones that, come to mind immediately when I'm thinking of the use of technology within the classroom.
I loved, I don't know if Saul is still here, but I I love the slide that you had up there. You know, you had your knowledge at the center and then all of these other additional skills. And there's a wonderful book I read recently about emotional intelligence. And it talked about, quite similar, you know, talked about the students who are showing, you know, emotional intelligence. Well, actually, they're scoring high, if not better. They're succeeding in the workplace on par or even higher than those with a very high IQ. Absolutely fascinating. So if this is the work environment that we are asking our students to kind of go into, what does our system look like and what do our classrooms look like to really support that process? I think one thing that is very interesting in terms of the professional development that we're seeing take off exponentially, certainly in the US, is centers-based learning. How do we support teachers introducing group work activities, particularly around topics like STEM? How do we introduce a problem-solving approach for problems that are worth solving, right? So how do we encourage this, get students talking to each other, getting students thinking in a higher order way, thinking about Bloom's taxonomy and so on. So it's been very interesting in terms of the soft skills, introducing those through professional development, and again coming back to the teacher who is the linchpin in all of this to make sure that it's successful.
Yeah, by the way, one other thing that comes to mind is things such as teaching skills and presentation skills. I mean, those are things that are, you know, recently they're definitely assessed via video. So you do have teachers, you know, forced to present and kind of exhibit their teaching skills and presentation skills, which many times are a key factor in engaging their students in the classroom.
Yeah, so maybe I'll speak for my world. We have seen, especially with an adaptive learning system, that hard skills are, you know, easily teachable using technology, easier teachable using technology. And so the soft skills are the ones that my feeling is going to be the role of the universities to educate the people on, you know, on a set of soft skills that are important for you know, to succeed in today's professional world, like, you know, problem solving, presentation skills, communication skills, and the like. And so we see today that if you want to become a developer, there are a bunch of Linda courses in different coding languages that you can study much better than sitting in a classroom and you know, hear from your teacher how to write code, right? And so that has been done pretty well, or is being done pretty well today in the world. But at the same time, the soft skills are a little bit more hard. I don't think anyone has unlocked or had the formula on how to teach soft skills yet.
I was looking to you.
Great idea for a startup.
It's a great idea.
Discuss.
But I do believe that that's going to be the role of the universities. It's some sort of bring together the people in a socially interactive environment to really hone the social, you know, the soft skills as part of your career development or career professional development.
So we talked about also personalization or also adaptive learning. And I want to ask whether the person who wants to learn can actually set the goals, set what he wants to learn, and then the platform can support, whether the platform can support how to reach that goal using your kind of technology.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Eva spoke about it before from Newton. They are one of the first companies in the market to do adaptive learning, and we're also doing that pretty well. At the end of the day, it's a factor of scale, and the more people are going through multiple you know, learning paths through a platform, then you can sort of understand what is the optimal path for a learner, right? And so at the end of the day, when a person comes into our platform or into a bunch of other, you know, platforms that are doing adaptive learning, the first thing you want to do is some sort of set the expectations, right? So you give a quick assessment to determine a knowledge level for a person. Based on that, you make a decision which topics, concept he has mastered by definition or by his experience, and which topics he still needs to focus on when he learns for a test or for a course or for a certain skill set, right? And so platforms are pretty smart today, and it's all a matter of, you know, the algorithms are there. It's all a matter of funneling more data and, you know, honing the optimal pathways. And so the companies that are you know, that they have the data and they have the scale and they have the traffic, they can really create better recommendations for the students and in real time change their learning pathway all the way to the goal. So sometimes if you originally predicted that the person will take maybe 20 days to complete the course in an estimated score of whatever, 80 out of 100. And over time, you discover that the person is actually a better learner. So you can shorten the distance and take him faster. So, and we see it in the consumer space. In the consumer space, you can provide two different values. Either you save time or you save money, right? So that's what we do on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, what we see is that in our case, since our customers are the institutions and each of them creates different content, in the end, actually, it's more of a rare outcome that they design specific personalized learning paths. So I actually see, very often that it's kind of standardized learning paths and not personalized. It requires much more investment in creating it within specific course content. But perhaps over time, and especially if it's repeat courses, we'd see more of that. But I don't see enough of it nowadays.
Just a comment to say, personalized learning is, absolutely critical, right? We have these wonderful tools, so I'm coming back to the mantra about how we're supporting teachers with being successful in introducing and sustaining personalized learning in the classroom.
By the way, personalized learning is just a matter of probability, right? You never know. It's like marketing, right? You say 70% of this channel converts better, so I'm going to invest here rather than there, right? So it's the same with the recommendation for the student is based on data, and you try to do the best guesstimate for the student, but the student has to take the action and prove that you're right. So,
I want to ask about the role of the teacher again, because here all these platforms are more supportive of maybe like a passive learning if you have the video, or learning alone if you have the app. But the teacher also has a role as a role model, as something that gives you something beyond the content. And how you can combine the teacher within these platforms, with these platforms.
Yeah, I guess in our case, the teachers are extremely dominant because they create a lot of the content on their own and design the learning paths to the extent they go ahead and invest in it. So I'd say that the teachers are definitely at the center, and they can decide when to deploy the video and whether to assign video assignments to the students, how much of themselves to immerse within their learning experience. Say that there are a few kind of interesting things, because we have a lot of these conversations with the actual users of our platform, and you see things such as a professor who is somewhat less engaging in the classroom, but then when they go ahead and invest in creating a very crystal message in the video, suddenly it does engage the same students in the classroom when they play back the video. So that professor standing in the class is kind of, not very to the point, and then having that clear video. And sometimes that's something that stimulates more of a conversation. So I'd say it's a tool that, professors who learn how to master it can actually leverage it to a great extent.
Yeah, absolutely. Content plays such a support role in this, right? So when we're designing content, are we thinking about supporting that teacher? Are we thinking about that end user experience, that student in the classroom? Certainly when we're creating our video content, we'll be all of our content produced by educators. So we'll be looking at a few seconds from this program, a few seconds from that program, but really sewing it together in a narrative that's meaningful in the classroom, but critically that can be used intuitively by that teacher. So we're not making any assumptions. When we're putting together that narrative, we're making sure that the video is talking about the big questions. What's the big question here? What does this connect to? What have you learned previously? What will you be learning tomorrow? So we're asking those kind of compelling why questions, if you like, and making the interaction between the content and the student, with the teacher as the facilitator, as intuitive as possible. So we're really trying to support the teacher in that role.
I 100% agree with what was said before. Technology should support the educator in order to really personalize, discussion or facilitate the discussion after technology did its part, which is getting the knowledge level of the person or prepare the student very well before he's meeting the educator. So we believe that there is an intersection that has to be well defined between the technology and the educators, and the educators need not to be afraid of that, but rather utilize it as to take the knowledge level of a student to the next level by getting great recommendations and insights on every person and a knowledge level and knowledge in a certain space.
Okay, so final question for all of you. How do you imagine your platforms in the next 5, 10 years? What will be like the next big step of how you use your technology in order to improve the education?
Okay, this is not being recorded, is it? It's going to come back and haunt me. Well, before we talk about the future, let's talk about maybe what we've learned up to today in the UK, because we've had a very interesting roadmap over the last 2 years with a huge amount of change. Coding was introduced to the UK curriculum formally 2 years ago. So 5-year-olds are now learning how to code. And this represents a massive shift, not only in terms of content that needed to be created for that, but also in terms of the educators. We used to have a curriculum that required students to learn how to use a program. Here's how to use Excel, here's how to use PowerPoint. Fast forward to today, and the students need to learn how to make the programs work for them. And that's a huge shift. We have students who are thinking in a computational way, thinking about algorithms, thinking about some of the big kind of compelling pieces of coding. And it's been a huge shift for us in the UK. And I think in terms of what we've experienced in the UK, it's been a successful shift. I think industry has played a significant role in supporting that transition. And I see the role of industry in education going forward, continuing to play that partnership role, whether it's with the school, the individual school, or potentially up with the ministries of education and government level. It will be very interesting to see how coding rolls out globally. We know that there are at least a handful of countries who are looking. I think the next country will be Australia, introducing coding formally come January. So keep your eyes peeled.
So in the end, we're a platform, and to this date, we've actually created certain specialized experiences for educational institutions and EdTech companies. But from my perspective, the thing what I would encourage and I'd love to happen is to have actually the platforms that specialize in education go ahead and leverage our core video technology in order to develop next generation learning experiences. So in the end, we handle all of the core complexities that video has, whether it's, the new formats, 360, virtual reality, whatever it needs to do, we will support it. And if it's 4K and any other things that are complicated to deliver to the devices, we'll make sure that that is taken care of. And then I'm not sure that necessarily we need to be the ones who will define the next generation video experiences for learning, but have the EdTech platforms go ahead, such as I'm hoping many of the folks we've been speaking to today here will go ahead and integrate video into their existing platforms. Because in the end, the disruption will not necessarily come from technology. I mean, there's a lot of disruption that is happening in the world of education. Questions such as the role of institutions and, to what extent, institutions' role is going to be to create the knowledge, to grant degrees, to do research. I mean, so, and all of this in the world of, public MOOCs, private MOOCs, and many more things that were supposed to disrupt, that did not disrupt. I'm not sure that we will be able to predict that, but in the end, it's clear to me that whatever happens, video will be a big part of it. And from our perspective, we want to make sure that we're there and heavily integrated into a lot of these next generation learning experiences.
I'll say 2 words because our time is up, but for us is the next 2 big things or themes in the company is social learning. So instead of a person get support from a tutor when he is at need or from our company, so basically get a first response from the community and then try to work your way. The second piece is really create the full application process for higher education institutions in the US within the mobile app. So these are the 2 elements that we're working on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.